Alright, in this video we are going to cover the origin point. So, in Unreal Engine, you can see the point where I move the object is right in the dead center. So if I drag and drop this object, it is halfway through whatever I place it in. That's because the origin point is kind of the contact point. It's where, well, I don't know how else to explain it. So I have the origin point in the center of the world. That's where it's going to be. Let's say I drag it up so it's flat on the center of the world like this, or on the grid. What I can do is I can set my origin, this little orange thing, to the 3D cursor, which is at the middle. So if I were to, you can press F3, search for origin to 3D cursor, and I'll do the exact same thing. I just have mine set to a favorites, the favorites tab. You can then go and export out the cube, re-import, and it is now where you positioned it. So it's right in this on the floor, like perfectly. Now this is very useful for things like doors, light switches, that kind of stuff. Like for example, in my plugin, I have to place my doors in a specific place because that's the point at which they are going to rotate. So let's pretend this is a door. Let me shape it like so. Scale it on the Y, I'll scale it down. Apply the scale. Export that out. Re-import, and there we go. So let's say I try to rotate it. Well, it's rotating on the middle, like in the middle of the object. That's not really what we want. We want it to be pivoting from over here. So kind of in the very edge of it, right in the middle. So what we would want to do is take our model, we'll drag it on the x-axis, so it's flush with the y. So the origin, the center of the world is right there on where we want it to pivot. Then we simply set the origin to 3D cursor, export this back out, re-import in Unreal Engine, and now when we go to rotate, you can see it's right here. It pivots just like a door. This is also handy for things like light switches. Let's say this is the light switch. I wanted to be able to place it on this wall flush. I drag and drop. Well, it's partially through the wall. You can kind of see where I'm going with this now. I drag it on the y-axis, set the origin point. I can actually move it back to the center that way as well, which I would rather do. Now re-import. And it is perfectly flush against the wall with the origin point being right here. So that is how you handle and deal with origin points inside of Blender, because I know for some people it can be a little bit of a pain, but it's a good idea to know where it's at. And it doesn't matter where you export this. So if I take this, I drag it way up and over here, and I export it out, re-import, well, it's still going to be there. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it doesn't matter, but the origin point is going to be kind of at the world center. So you can see it's moving it around like that. If I look at the world center to here, when you go to export the object, for whatever reason, it's going to add that offset to the, the origin. So for example, if I have this in the middle, let's say I drag it up like this, move the origin. So that way the object, when I import it, it's going to be way above the ground. Now let's say I move it back down to the world origin, or the flat part, and I'll just move it to the Y like that. When I go to export this, let me delete that and place in another one. I hit re-import. See, it's way over here. So it kind of adds on to your origin point's offset. So the origin point's way down here. So in theory, my object should be really, really high, but it's not. But if you want to mimic what kind of thing you're going to experience inside of Unreal Engine, you want to have your origin point set where, well, you want it, because this is your location in the world too. So I want to make sure that I'm always set when I go to export, that my location is zeroed out and that's going to be exactly where I want it. So now, if I export and re-import, it should be right above, somewhere in this area right up here. Like so. So it just moved it straight up, just like it is inside of Blender. So that is pretty much everything there is to that. Well, that's how you can handle your origin points, set them how you want it. It's very important to kind of set it up so that if you need it to pivot in a specific way, like if you're going to rotate it with your code, set your origin point in a way that it'll pivot around that origin point. Now, if I recall right, I know there was a paid plugin, I don't know how long ago, there might be a free one now, but you can probably edit, well, I think you can edit also the origin point directly inside of an Unreal Engine. I'm not sure how to do that, I've never actually done it, but there is the way to do that as well. So that's going to be it for this video, and in the next one we're going to cover the skeleton scale. So pretty much working with animations inside of Unreal Engine and how to prevent an issue that caused me to spend about, I'd say, 7 hours remaking animations that flat out broke. So I'll see you then. If you want to know how to make an HK416, there is a link to a playlist in my description that it is not my series of videos, but he covers from point A to point Z on making a low poly firearm that's easy for beginners to follow along with. And he covers pretty much everything you need to know about making every part that you really need. So to end this, if you like what I'm doing, you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Discord in the description, or sorry, a link to my Patreon in the description. Sorry, it's about 4 a.m. And I also have a Team Deathmatch series set up for Patrons only. So if you want to, you can check that out. And if you have any questions or anything like that, need any help with anything game dev related, you can find a link to my Discord server down there as well. So I will see you in the next video when we tackle the skeleton scale issues that you will probably at some point or another encounter. So I will see you then.